Hello class, I welcome you all to the session. This session we are going to discuss a new lesson, public enterprise, private enterprise and MNCs. So you have to understand, before we understand what is public enterprise, what is a private, what is private enterprise and what is MNCs, you should understand the framework of the chapter. Let us first know about Indian economy. Economies are generally three types. One is the capitalist economy, where economy runs through capital, business and profit. The second one is communist economy, where the government decides everything and it takes control over each and everything, every aspect of the economy. The third category is mixed economy. Mixed economy, you can find both capitalistic approach as well as communistic approach, where government will take care of certain things. So there will be a blend of private as well as public government enterprises. Now, examples of communist economy is China. Capitalist economy is United States, and example of mixed economy is Indian economy. See, there are some key aspects you need to understand about private sector enterprises. You can look into the box, the yellow box there, private sector enterprises. You have sole proprietorship, partnership, Hindu undivided family, cooperative society, company, MNC. So all these private sector enterprises is there in our country. The other form of organizations are public sector enterprises, where you can find departmental undertaking, statutory corporation, government companies. Now, private is privately owned. Public sector enterprises are government publicly owned enterprises. Certain enterprises can be government companies, which is majority of the shares are owned by the government or completely owned by the government, or it can be statutory corporation, which is established under the act passed in the parliament, and the other aspect can be departmental undertaking. Okay, it is coming under the ministry of government. The key points stating the operations of private and public sectors. What is the reason? There are some key policies which is making our economy a suitable place for both private as well as public sector. One is the Industrial Policy Resolution 1948. Then Industrial Policy Resolution 1956, the 1991 Industrial Policy, radically different from all the earlier policy, as government insisted on disinvestment of public sector and allowing greater freedom to the private sector. Now you can see in the slide you had two resolutions, that is Industrial Policy Resolution 1948 and 1956. These policies threw focus on lot of public sector enterprises. But when there was globalization, privatization and liberalization, that is you call LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization, in the year 1991 the approach changed. The government started to disinvestment. They started disinvestment. What do you mean by disinvestment? They gave the public sector enterprises, they gave out for the private persons to operate public sector enterprise, and they allowed private sector enterprise to form, to get established in the country with ease. That's very important. Okay, so we have looked into the slides. The next slide that we are going to look is the features of public sector enterprise. Now, public sector enterprise consists of three different types of organization. One is departmental undertaking. The next one is statutory corporation. The next one will be government companies. So, these features will help us to understand how these organizations are set up. First is government plays major role. In public sector enterprises, majority of the decisions or regarding the office, how it's managed, all these things, government plays a major role. Government act through its people, its office, employees, and take decisions on behalf of government. The second feature is economic development. It focuses on economic development of the nation. The third one is owned by the public and are accountable to the public. It is owned by the public and are accountable to the public. Takes any form of organization, that is departmental, you take any form of the organization, it is departmental, statutory corporation or government companies, should ensure organizational performance, productivity and quality standards. Now, these are the features of public sector enterprises. The next that we are going to look into the various types of public sector enterprises. The first type is departmental undertaking. It established as departments of the ministry and are considered part or an extension of the ministry itself. Now, it is established as departments of the ministry and are considered part or an extension of the ministry itself. So, for government undertakings like departmental undertakings, government has various departments. Say for example, railways or postage and communication or telecommunication department or corporate affairs department. So, the undertaking that's functioning will be coming directly under the ministry. Suppose you have railways, it comes under the Ministry of Railways. Okay, like that. Then, not constituted as autonomous or independent institutions and as such are not independent legal entities. It is not constituted as autonomous or independent institutions and as such are not independent legal entities. See, it's a part of government. It's a part of government enterprises. It is not part of any other private organization or private sector. Okay, so it is not constituted as autonomous. The decisions, autonomous in sense, the decisions, everything will be taken by that particular organization, but here decisions are taken by the ministry, which is coming under the influence of the government. Acts through the officers of government. Its employees are government employees. This you have to keep in mind. Its employees are government employees. Maybe under central or state government. Okay, so one more question may be asked, whether employees of departmental undertaking are government employees. The answer is true. Yes, they are government employees. Indian Railways are managed by Ministry of Railways. I told you this. So like this is the plain meaning of departmental undertaking. Yes. The next, we are going to look into the features of departmental undertaking. Accountable to the ministry. Funding of these enterprises come directly from the government treasury. Okay. So, funding, the finance directly come from the government treasury. Subject to accounting and audit controls. subject to accounting and audit controls. In fact, the audits are done under government's regulations, that is under statutory audit. Okay, so a third person called as an auditor will be appointed by the government to conduct audit of the books of accounts, okay, for these departmental undertaking, and he has to show that to the authority, that is controller auditor general. Okay, then employees are government servants, we are aware of that, a major subdivision of the government department. Okay, major subdivision of the government department. Okay, the next feature, departmental undertaking. What are the merits? These undertakings facilitate the Parliament to exercise effective control over their operations. These undertakings facilitate the Parliament to exercise effective control over their operations. Yes. Then it is high degree of public accountability, because these enterprises are government enterprises, and these enterprises should show to the public what are their actual doings. So it would be sending the report. Okay, so it has to make sure that it follows everything possible under public accountability. Then source of income for the government. Whatever is the source of income, whatever the government earns as income, it goes to the government treasury. Okay, where it finance is being allocated, government treasury. Where the revenue is going, government treasury. It's like that. Okay, where national security is concerned, this form is most suitable. See, like defense, army, navy, air force, like this. When national security is a concern, this form is most suitable, since it is under the direct control and supervision of the concerned ministry. Okay, so since it is under the direct control and supervision of the concerned ministry. Yes. Then one more question may be asked. If national security is a concern, which type of public sector undertaking is more suitable? What should be your answer? Departmental undertaking. Okay. Moving to the next. You have various departmental undertaking. Examples of departmental undertakings: All India Radio, Doordarshan, Post and Telegram, and you have Indian Railways. These are some of the examples of departmental undertaking. Then departmental undertaking, what are the demerits? It fails to provide flexibility. It fails to provide flexibility because it is coming directly under the control. It is coming directly under the control of the government. So it fails to provide flexibility. Heads of the department of such undertaking are not allowed to independent decisions. Head of the department of such undertakings are not allowed to independent decision, because it says that there is no autonomy. They cannot decide on their own. For each and everything, they have to get the approval from the ministry, approval from the government of India. Without the approval of the ministry concerned, it leads to delay. So therefore it leads to delay. So first disadvantage is there is no flexibility. Then there is a delay in taking decision, communication, everything, because everything they have to ask to the authority, ministry. The bureaucrats over caution and conservative approval does not allow them to take risky ventures. Now they are very cautious. They are very conservative in their approval. Okay, so what happens is you cannot have risky venture even if you are having a lot of profits. So you need to play safe. So this is one of the demerits the departmental undertaking face. Then you have red tapeism in day-to-day operations. You have red tapeism. What is red tapeism? When approval needs to be done, there's too much of authority, too much of persons to finish the formality, thereby it leads to corruption. Okay, then the lots of lots of political interference through the ministry. So political interference is the most, because majority of the funding is coming from the ministry. There will be obviously political influence. Then insensitive to consumer need. It's not like what the consumer needs, it's like what the departmental undertaking provides. There is no importance given to consumer needs. Anyways, this organization will sustain because it is coming under the government. Okay, that's why you have delay in everything. Customer satisfaction is not up to the mark in many departments like railways, like postage and telegram, Doordarshan. That's the reason. So these are the demerits of departmental undertaking. The next is statutory corporation. Statutory corporation are public enterprises brought into existence by a special act of the Parliament. Statutory corporation are public enterprises brought into existence by a special act of the Parliament. See, it is every statutory corporation, it comes only by a special act passed in the Parliament. It is a corporate body created by the legislature with defined powers and features, and is financially independent with a clear control over a specified area or a particular type of commercial activity. Now, they are all specialists. See, some of the examples are SBI. SBI is a nationalized bank. It's specialized in so many fields of banking and banking related activities. Reserve Bank of India, it is a leader of the banking framework of our country. So these are all some of the examples of statutory corporation. ONGC, also it's a oil company, oil and gas company corporation. Okay, so that's the full form, ONGC, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation. Then ESIC, Employees State Insurance Corporation. These are all some of the examples of statutory corporation. It is financially independent with a clear control over a specified area or a particular type of commercial activity. So you have autonomy, but it is created by law with defined powers and functions. It has to fulfill its functions and objectives. Coming to the next one, features. Statutory corporation, it is set up under an act of Parliament. It is set up under an act of Parliament. We are aware of that. Wholly owned by the state. Wholly owned by the state. A body corporate. Independently financed. Okay. It's set up under an act of Parliament. It is wholly owned by the state, that is the government, and a body corporate. Then independently financed, not subject to the same accounting and audit procedures applicable to the government departments. So you need to make sure they are separately liable for audit and accounting. They are not supposed to follow the procedures applicable to the government departments. Okay, like we saw in the departmental undertaking. Then employees are not government employees or civil servants. You have to be very careful. Only one type of organization which has government employees is departmental undertaking. Even though the employee is employed under RBI or State Bank of India, they are not government employees. They are not civil servants. Okay. Then what are the merits? Statutory corporation are free from undesirable government regulation and control. It is free from undesirable government regulation and control. You have to be very careful. There is no government intervention, or maybe you can say very less government intervention. Okay. Government does not interfere in their financial matters. It is their responsibility. It will not interfere in financial matter. Autonomous organizations, there is a freedom in decision making to this organization. Valuable instrument for economic development. a very good example. Without RBI, you cannot understand, you cannot make sure that the economy is performing well. Without SBI, SBI is a big network, right? So it cannot, the economy cannot function normally if these organizations are not there. So there is economic development. Then there are demerits. Statutory corporation. All actions are subject to many rules and regulations. All actions are subject to many rules and regulations. Government and political interference. There is a government and political interference sometimes. These are all indirectly formed through parliament. They are indirectly regulated by the political parties and government. All actions are subject to many rules and regulations. This may be a demerit. Okay, involves corruption. That's very important. Involve corruption. Then government has a practice of appointing advisors to corporation board. This curbs the freedom of the corporation. So this is one approach. The government has a practice of appointing advisors to the corporation board. This curbs the freedom of corporation. So there is no 100% freedom. Okay, so you should understand these are all the demerits of statutory corporation. We will look into the government company now. Government company are established under section 2 subsection 45 under the Companies Act of 2013. So it's a companies, it is registered under Companies Act 2013 or previous company law. A government company means any company which not less than 51% of the paid up capital is held by the central government or by any state government or partly by central government and partly by one or more state governments, and includes a company which is a subsidiary of a government company. Okay, so what is this? Say government company means any company which is not less than 51% of the paid up share capital is held by the government. See, when it is 100%, what constitutes majority of shares? If you are holding 51%, that will be majority, because the other person will be holding only 49%, which is not a majority. 51 is more than 49. So this is the ratio. So it can hold how much of a percentage it wants, but the standard percentage required for forming that majority is 51%. Okay, so it is either held by the central government or by the state government or partly by the central and partly by the state or two or more state government, and includes a company which is a subsidiary of the government company, even though the subsidiary is a private company. If it is coming under government company, it will be called as a government company. Okay, the shares of the company are purchased in the name of the President of India. So this is one of the important 1-mark question. The shares of these company are purchased in the name of President of India. The examples of government companies are BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, Maruti Udyog Limited, Steel Authority of India Limited, Hindustan Steel Limited, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, then Bharat Earth Movers Limited, Madras Refineries Limited, Indian Telephone Industries Limited, Hindustan Antibiotics Limited, Hindustan Machine Tools. So 1-mark question can be asked from the examples of government companies. So you just have to remember these many organizations. See, it's simple rule. If it is ending by limited, majority of the company will be ending by limited. Okay, if it is ending by limited, then it is called as a government company. One exception is there, Hindustan Machine Tools, HMT. Okay, HMT. I think that it's no longer functioning, HMT. Okay, there are some of the examples, pictures of Maruti Udyog, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and Steel Authority of India Limited is given. Government company, what are the features? The organization created under Government Companies Act 2013. So the organization is created under Companies Act 2013. Company can file a suit in a court of law against any third party and be sued. Company can enter into a contract and can acquire property in its own name. Management of the company is regulated by the provisions of the Companies Act. See, every feature of a company will be followed. See, company can file a lawsuit as well as be sued. Okay, company can enter into a contract and acquire property in its own name. Management of the company is regulated by the provisions of the Companies Act. Employees of the company are appointed according to their own rules and regulations as constituted in the memorandum and articles of association. An auditor is appointed by the central government, and the annual report is to be presented in the parliament or the state legislature. This point is important. One more question can be coming from this point. Auditor is appointed by the central government. An annual report is to be presented in the parliament or the state legislature. The government company obtain its funds from government shareholdings and other private shareholdings. See, 51% the government may own, 49% public can own. So that is the features of a government company. And the employees of government companies are not employees of government. They are not government servants. That you should keep that in mind. They are appointed as per the rules and regulations contained in the memorandum and articles of association. The next one is government companies. What are the merits? It is established by fulfilling the requirements of the Indian Companies Act 2013. Separate legal entity. It enjoys autonomy and it curbs unhealthy business practices. So it's coming under the Companies Act. So there is a suitability of functioning because it can take its own decisions. It has a separate legal entity. It curbs unhealthy business practices because it has to comply a lot of procedures laid down by law. Then government company, what are the demerits? Demerits, the government is the only shareholder in some of the companies. Government is the only shareholder in some of the companies. The provisions of the Government Companies Act does not have much relevance. See, government is the only shareholder in some of the companies. The provisions of the companies does not have much relevance. See, when majority of the functioning shares are being held by the government, say for example 99% shares held by government or 100% shares paid up share capital is held by government. Government has the legislature, it can override legislature. That's what it means. It can overpower the Companies Act because the entire rules regulations comes from the government. Usually you should understand the authority comes from the government of India through legislature, and it is applicable to companies. So when the majority of the shares are being held by the government itself, what happens? The authority flows from the government itself directly to the company, overriding the provisions given in the Companies Act. Okay, then it evades constitutional responsibility which a company financed by the government should have. Okay, sometimes what happens? It evades constitutional responsibility which a company financed by the government should have. Okay, then the government being the sole shareholder, the management and administration rest in the hands of the government. So it's a delay in decision making, unhealthy practices like corruption, all those things may be involved in the government company. So evades constitutional responsibility which a company financed by the government through should have. Okay, and then we have successfully completed the part 1 of public sector enterprises. We have completed fully. Next class we will be discussing part 2, that is MNCs, multinational corporation. Thank you.